Hello and welcome everybody to this webinar on how to protect your business against the bad guys today and, even more important, tomorrow. My name is Thorsten Ries and I will accompany you throughout the next 60 hours through this session. And I'm head of post-cyber defense, which is part of the post-cyber security department of post-CYBERFORCE. And as cyber defense, we are in charge of protecting you against attackers, you and us. And by this, we are responsible for the detection and response to security incidents. Let me just start with a figure, 11. I just say 11. And for those who are watching German television, it's not about talking an online dating platform where they advertise that every 11 minutes someone is falling in love. No, 11 is a result from a security report, meaning there's a prediction that in 2021, every 11 seconds, there will be a business attacked by ransomware. And this is only about ransomware. When you see cybersecurity reports, the number of cyber attacks and the complexity throughout the change of the threat landscape will change in the future. And this is a prediction for the upcoming years. And the question is how we can protect our business against these more and more sophisticated attacks. And this is exactly the subject of this webinar, where we will show, and I guess even more important, demonstrate on what we put in place and how we envision the future of a security operations center, which is at the heart of detecting attacks against our and obviously also your business. Though detection is just one aspect. Obviously, every security incident needs to be followed up and there needs to be a mitigation. And ideally, this should happen in a quick and efficient manner. And in order to make it quick and efficient, we need a formalized response plan, a plan that is clear and aligned to the organization and to the business. So that's where the CSIRT, the Computer Security Incident Response Team, comes into the game. And in our case, we created a service called CyberSOS that is addressing exactly this point to ensure that every incident is being followed, that all relevant KPIs are reported to the management, that all relevant information is being distributed and shared between relevant parties in order to prevent even security attacks. And this so-called threat intelligence is also relevant for the SOC. And so both teams, they work hand in hand to ensure a complete protection before, during, and after an attack. So coming back to the detection of the security incidents, my colleagues Nathaniel Blanc and Thomas Profeta will explain you in a minute and demo how we are addressing an effective SOC operation to identify attacks as early as possible. Both work as SOC engineers at Post, and both have quite some years of experience and a very deep understanding of what is required to detect security incidents. However, you know that the security landscape is constantly evolving and changing. So it's not only today that we need to address in order to not let the gap between the attacker and the defender getting too big such that we cannot follow up. We need to anticipate today what may be required to protect our and your business tomorrow. So for the setup of our SOC, we have therefore selected Splunk as not only as a supplier, but even more important as a partner for our SIEM solution. And I'm glad that we have Frans van Eerland from Splunk in this webinar too. Franz is Director Technology and Innovation at Splunk and will present you some of the elements that Splunk and we believe are essential for the future of our SOC. A SOC that can be used by large organizations as well for medium and small enterprises. And in order to give you a better understanding on how effective and efficient detection of security incidents look like in practice, I would like to hand over to Nathanael and Thomas to present you a typical and realistic security threat and how they are able to detect it in an efficient manner. Throughout the presentation, there may be some questions. And please feel free to send these questions to cybersecuritydays@post.lu. At the end of this webinar, we will have a Q&A session where we will address all your questions. So, Nathanael, Thomas, the stage is yours.
So, thank you, Thorsten, for this introduction. So, we will now show you and explain you a real-life attack scenario that we designed, and we'll show you the capabilities of the SOC to detect this attack. So, before going to the live demo, we'll go through some slides. So, we first go to the explanation of what is a SOC and what is a CM. Then we'll explain where the attack will be taking place and how it will happen. Then we will move to the demo part. And at the end, we'll do a quick wrap-up about everything we saw during the demo. So first of all, what is a SOC mission? So the SOC mission is split in 4 parts to continuously improve the quality of the SOC. So the first one is to detect. So basically just detect malicious or suspicious behavior. Then when we detect, we have a part where we respond. So we try to qualify the alert that we received. So either false positive or true positive. If it's a true positive, we get in touch with the client where the malicious alert happened. And we see with him how to mitigate the threat. So this is the manage part. And at the end, when the threat is mitigated, we go into the monitor part again, where we add, for example, new IOCs that we could have gathered during the forensics for the alerts, or if it was a false positive, maybe add some whitelist or blacklist relevant to the alert that we saw. Now, how does a CM work? So a CM works, first of all, with logs, all kinds of logs. So we could gather logs from Apache servers, web servers, database servers, network security, firewall, etc. Basically, every device that can send logs can be sent into a SIEM. Then the logs are normalized and aggregated. So what does that mean? It means that, for example, if you take web server logs and a firewall logs, both logs has, for example, a source address, so the address where the client came from, but these addresses are on 2 different places in the logs. The normalization is the principle where we put this address in the same field for all our logs. So with this done, we could go into the correlation part. So this part is really the heart and the brain of the SIEM. So this is where we correlate all the logs and where we can do all the correlation. And when this is done, this is also the part where we create the correlation rules and detection alerts, where this will be used to generate alerts that we explained just the slide before that we would respond to, and also generate some dashboard that could be useful either for the client, for example, for audit, or to have a big picture and a better overview of the environment of the client. Now, where will the attack of the live demo taking place? So this will take place in our lab environment. So just a quick overview. In our lab, we try to recreate a real environment of a small company. So, for example, you can see on the right of this schema the client part, so where we have an Active Directory and we have some Windows 7 and Windows 10 machine. On the bottom part, you can see the DMZ, so for example with a web server, a proxy, DNS, etc. On the top left, this is the SOC part, where there is the SIEM and other tools that can be used by a SOC. And on the top right part, this is the attacker space, let's say, which is meant to be internet in real life. And the goal of the attacker, which is the Kali Linux server you can see on the top right subnet, will be to attack and try to corrupt the yellow machine you can see on the client subnet.
So before going to the fun part of this presentation, which is the SOC live demo, just a few words about the attack timeline. So basically in the screen right now, you can see in the white circle the generic step of a cyber attack, which follow pretty much the cyber kill chain steps. And just below, our way to implement our specific cyber attack. So the goal of our attacker will be to become domain admin over the company, and to do so, he will first, as an initial reconnaissance, search for email addresses of the employee of the company over social media, like LinkedIn, for example. Then he will weaponize and deliver a malware by a phishing campaign. So once one of the users of the company will be fooled by this email and click and execute the malware, the attacker will have access to the laptop of the user. So the first thing the attacker gonna do when he have access, he will add some persistence in order to regain access if the user reboot his computer, for example. He want to go back easily to the laptop. Then he will maybe need some privileges to make some tasks. So he will elevate his privileges by exploiting misconfiguration in the laptop, in the services that are installed on the laptop. And then he will make some internal reconnaissance by searching on share that are accessible from the laptop to check if he can retrieve some highly valuable information, such as credential in clear text. So basically, that's the way our specific cyber attack is executed. And on top of the screen, you can see the steps that the SOC can detect. So for the initial reconnaissance, as it's all about social media and gather publicly available information, the SOC do not have any logs for this server, so we cannot detect anything. But for the rest, we can detect, for example, the malicious behavior of the malware. We can detect the connection, regular connection to the command and control. We can also detect some specific exploits, all the administrative commands that the attacker will use, and finally, the malicious access to the Active Directory. So basically, let's go to the fun parts of the presentation. So Thomas will just simulate the attacker and the victim, which is basically an employee of the company. So he's now logged in to the Kali Linux machine. So it's the asset of the attacker. We choose Kali Linux because it's an operating system that embeds a lot of ethical hacking tools. So it's very useful. So Thomas just sent right now the phishing email to one of the employees of the company. He will just use Metasploit on the Kali Linux to wait for incoming connection, to wait for an employee to be fooled by the phishing email. So it just uses Metasploit, one of the most popular command and control tool, to wait for connection on HTTPS ports going through the web proxy of the company as any HTTPS connection. So if we log into the Windows machine of the victim, we can see the email coming from the HR department and telling that there is a new COVID live map delivered by the World Health Organization. So the user is just feared about the COVID, so he will just open the link and download the COVID live map. You can see that there is just a little typo in the URL of the website, so it's just a copy of the World Health Organization website. So it will just execute now the COVID live map, and here it is. There is nothing really strange. We can follow the cases of the COVID around the world, and yeah, basically the user can go back to work. But if we go to the attacker's machine, we can see that a lot of stuff already happened. So now we have the end on the laptop of the user with the user right, win user one. We can do something that a hacker will never do, open a calculator in front of the screen of the user. So here it is, we have access. The first thing that the hacker will make is to make his access stable by adding some persistence. So here Thomas is just installing a scheduled task which will be executed every minute over and over in order to regain access if we lost it. So if we go back now to the victim workstation, today it's the end of the month, so it's payday. So the user maybe want to check his banking account. So he just logged into his banking website with some really strong credential, apparently. So best practice. So he just logged in, and yeah, he got his money definitely. So he can go back to work. If we go to the attacker assets, our malware install a keylogger which makes the attacker able to retrieve everything the user type to his keyboard. So we can print the output of the keylogger and retrieve the user and password of the victim. Another cool thing that we can do is using a PowerShell script, which will basically browse the entire laptop, searching for highly valuable information such as a credit card. If the user is part of the sales department, maybe you have some credit cards stored on this laptop. So here it is. We have all this information, and we can keep it for later use. So now our attacker will need to have some higher privileges. So what we can do is, for example, list the different services that are configured on the laptop and search for misconfiguration. So here it seems that one of the services is not properly configured. So we can exploit this to gain higher privileges. So Thomas will just have to put his Metasploit server in listening mode, and then upload an exploit to exploit the vulnerability, and just start the service to have a new connection. So here's the case. Not already, okay. So I cannot see clearly, but
yes.
Some demo effects maybe. It's okay?
It's okay.
No worry. So we are now anti-authority system over the workstation. Yes?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
No problem.
Oh, there we go.
Here it goes.
Should be good.
Let's check.
No.
Not already? Well, otherwise we can skip this part, maybe.
Just one last try.
Okay, one last try. Sorry for this little demo effect. So it's all about live demo, so it can happen.
Yeah.
No?
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
So maybe we will skip the part about system admin privileges over the laptop and continue the demo.
I maybe need just to run the live map again. Sorry.
Sorry, Thomas, I cannot see clearly the screen, so...
Yeah, no problem. Just excuse me 2 seconds. Some little technical issue, but it will be back in just minutes. Just need to restart this. Yes, so
we have no session up and running right now, right?
yeah, I killed the Meterpreter. So I will just run the live Mac again. Sorry. No, yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, I can just explain the next step of the attack and maybe
you can
off.
Yeah, you can still try to explain. I will.
I will just explain without showing. Sorry for that. Little technical issue, as we said, but basically at this moment the attacker was able to become system admin on the laptop, so he can do whatever he wants. For example, he can create other local administrator on the laptop. He can also retrieve password hashes that are stored, for example, in the SAM file, and use Mimikatz to retrieve this password. And after that, the attacker will try to make some lateral movements. So basically, the attacker will browse the different share of the company, searching for scripts that may contain keywords like admin, access, database, etc., etc. He searches for this kind of script because there is an high probability to see clear text credential in it. So once you have one of these scripts containing clear text password, he can use this credential to run something on a server. So if he can run something on a server, he can, for example, dump the LSAS process, which basically store all the password hashes of the users that connect to this server. So because it's a database server, there is a high probability to see administrator password hashes on this server. And after that, it will just retrieve the dump that he did and use Mimikatz to open it and get the NTLM hash of an administrator. After this, he can just use the hash to connect to the Active Directory with the user and the NTLM hash and run our exploit again and gain access to the Active Directory with domain admin rights. And after that, basically it's done. The company is fully compromised. But yeah, sorry for the demo effect. But basically we were at the end of the demo, and I will let Thomas explain what the SOC can detect.
Yes. So yeah, again, sorry for the problem with the demo, but hopefully we did a backup plan, so we will still be able to show you the alert that would have triggered. But first, we will show you. First of all, this is the Splunk interface, and this is a dashboard about the log collection. So this dashboard shows you every logs that are coming into the Splunk CM. So we can see here, for example, that for the Windows assets, we have 3 Windows assets and a total number of 5 assets that are sending logs to the Splunk. On the graph below, you can see the number of logs sent over time by each device. So for example, here you can see this device, the SVSL04, which is the Active Directory. Here you can see the WST SL02, which is the Windows 10 machine, so it is the victim's machine. And on the bottom part of this dashboard, you can see the list of assets split by its type. So you can see, for example, on the bottom left that there is 3 Windows assets. You can see in the middle that there is 1 proxy that is sending logs, and on the bottom right, you can see the firewall logs that are coming. So this dashboard is really useful because with it you can do an inventory of all the machines that are sending logs to your CM, and you can also detect with the graph in the middle if some machines stop to send logs, or if there is a huge increase in logs in the number of logs that are sent, which could induce some suspicious behavior. Now, as the demo didn't work, there is not much alert now, but fortunately we did the same demo yesterday. So I will show you the alert that triggered yesterday, which will be the same that the one who would have triggered today. So first of all, we detected that the COVID map that the user downloaded, created, and started another executable, which was the one that triggered the connection back to the Kali Linux. Basically, when you saw this kind of activities in a laptop with, for example, a COVID map or a live map, it's some really strange behavior. You can also see DLL injection files. So this is the part where we inject our malware into the Explorer executable, which is run in memory. We also catch the use of Mimikatz, some PowerShell scripts. We also catch the creation of the schedule task, which was the backdoor that we put in place to have a connection back every minute. We saw some admin command executed. We saw here, for example, the commands that the attacker used to create a local admin and a local user and add it to the local admin group. We also detected it with the Windows logs. So here you can see the Windows logs for the creation of a user and the addition to it to a local admin group. We also detected the use of NTLM. So NTLM used by some domain user is really strange and a big indicator of the usage of the pass the hash exploit, because in a normal behavior, a domain user would use Kerberos to authenticate to a server and not NTLM. And once the user is connected to the Active Directory, as we saw here, used of NBL, we also caught the fact that the user NBL created another user, which is EvilDA2, and this user was added to the domain admin group. So here, all these alerts happened and all this action happened in a really quick time for the sake of the demo. But in the real world, all of this would happen in days or even months. So, and some of these actions could be legitimate. Let's say, for example, the creation of a user could be legitimate if some new user or some new people enter your organization, or if you have to create a new service, maybe you need to create a user associated with this service. The creation of the scheduled task could be some normal behavior for administrative task by your IT department. But what's really suspicious is the accumulation of all of this. But with this view, we cannot really see, or we can see, but only because it's in a really short period of time. But in other case, we can't really see the correlation between all this event and the accumulation. And this is where this dashboard came. So just to show you, this dashboard is based on the current time frame, but only to show you how it's displayed. And I will switch then to a graph which is based on the time frame from yesterday, where these alerts were shown. So in this dashboard, we can see the alert from the last hours. So we can see the top use cases or the top alerts that triggered. We can see here the list of users that triggered the alert, and here the list of the hosts that triggered the alert. And we can see here the last alert that arrived in the SIEM. And here there is the two graphs that I will show you with the real data. So here we have a cumulated graph of the alerts raised by split by host. So here we can see the Active Directory, and here the Windows 10 machine, which is the victim's machine. So we can clearly see here that there was no alert raised by these machines. And at one time, there is a huge peak in the number of alerts raised, and then it's calming. And the same here for the Active Directory. We can also see that when the victim's machine raise lower alerts, there is an increase in the one in the Active Directory, which means that the attacker pivots from the victim's machine to the Active Directory. And we have another graph, which is the same, but here it's not split by the host, it's split by the user. So here you can see, for example, here a huge amount of alert raised by the system admin user, which is a user that should never raise an alert or never be used except for some system task only Windows will do and not some users. We can also see that the WinUser1, which is the victims, raised some alerts. And you can also see a huge increase of the activity in terms of alerts raised by the user NBL, which was the domain admin user which was compromised in the middle of the demo. And here, once again, you can see that once the WinUser1, so our victim, the number of alerts is stabilizing. The number of alerts raised by NBL is increasing, which also shown that the attackers pivot from the first victim to the NBL user. So, as I said, all of this is used to have a big picture of all the alerts that are raised daily and monthly in the SIEM, and also to have a better overview of what is happening, and clearly see that here there is huge increase of the number of alerts for certain users, that something really suspicious is happening to this user, and that we will have to investigate and respond the possible threat that is occurring.
So, a few words to conclude this part of the presentation, the live demo. So first, the more important thing to remember is the correlation strategy, because as Thomas shows to you, the SOC must have a lot of use cases that follow the cyber kill chain, and must have a lot of use cases per step of the cyber kill chain. But basically, it's impossible to detect everything. And during a cyber attack, we will not have a magical log saying, hey, there is a cyber attack in there. So we have to put in place a correlation strategy in order to find security incidents regarding the number of alerts per host, per user, and the accumulation of alerts. So that's for the first part. Another part that we didn't show during this demonstration is about KPI and reporting. Basically, the SOC must provide to their customer some reports in order to keep track of the evolution of the infrastructure of their customer. This can help the customer to improve his resiliency, to keep track the new user, the new computer over the domain, etc., etc. On top of this alerting and reporting, we can also deliver some automation / orchestration. Basically, we need a lot of maturity as a SOC to deliver this kind of automation. Basically, an orchestrator takes as an input the alert of the SOC and can either enrich this alert by, for example, checking the ticketing tool of the customer to see if there is a change planned on the server on which the alert triggered, either do this or help to contain the incidents by, for example, blocking IP address on firewall or disabling a user that triggers too many alerts. You can automate a lot of stuff. But as I said, the SOC have to be really mature to deploy this kind of orchestration. And all these things are really dependent of the log quality. If the SOC does not receive any log, it cannot work. We cannot detect anything. So we have to receive logs and receive logs that are properly parsed, as Thomas explained at the beginning of the presentation, because everything relies on it. One of the last point is about the fact that the SOC have to be highly tailored to customer needs. The SOC have to deploy specific use cases that correspond, that match the customer infrastructure. If, for example, one of our customers have a specific application that provide logs, we can create specific use cases. And the SOC have to do this kind of use case creation. Another thing is that the SOC is not a magical plug and detect box. The SOC have to make some whitelisting. For example, if one of your customers have an SU scan which will run over the infrastructure searching for well-known vulnerability, you want to whitelist this server for this period of time, because otherwise it will generate a lot of false positives. And to conclude this part of the presentation, just a few words about purple teaming. Purple teaming is a great experience to improve use cases, because the blue team can help the red team to bypass security control, and the red team can provide new techniques, new exploits to the blue team in order to help them to improve their SOC use cases. So thanks for listening. I will let Thorsten continue.
We will let Thorsten introduce the next subject with France.
Okay, Thomas, Nathanael, thank you very much for this nice overview of a SOC service. And what you've seen here is probably one of the most important capabilities of a security stuff to be ready for the unexpected. And to be, especially in security, this is one of the key elements needed in order to survive. But as mentioned just a few moments ago, is that automation, orchestration is one of the elements that we already use to speed up security incident detection, also the response. And but there's much more that we can do in the near future. So we need not only to be ready for the unexpected, we need also to be ready for the tomorrow. And that's where I would like to hand over to Franz to explain a little bit how we can deal in the future with this fast changing and expanding threat landscape. Just consider IoT devices, for instance, in the future. So Franz, please let us know what Splunk is doing in order to support us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thorsten. Thank you, Post Luxembourg, for the invitation to talk about Splunk and our view on the modern SOC, and also a little bit about our partnership with Post Lux. So once in a while, I have to say next slide. So next slide, please. A little bit about me. So who am I? But this slide is actually saying that I'm getting old and that I'm a long-time survivor in this security space. Worked at a lot of companies. What is it now, 34 years? It says 33, but it's 34 years in this business. Now 2 years at Splunk as a director of technology and innovation. Yeah, and I deal with new things and new technologies, but also customers who are triggering us to build new things, and also partners who help us to understand what those new things should be. And Post Luxembourg is one of those partners, helping us to understand what the upcoming features or the upcoming technology should be when you deal with threats. Could you please go to the next slide? So during this presentation, we will look a little bit ahead. So I will make some forward-looking statements. Things that could be on our roadmap. Yeah, roadmaps are often a subject of change or time. So please, if you're going to invest in Splunk, base your investment on the products that are currently on the market. Next slide, please. As a little bit of a quick overview, if you're not familiar with Splunk, our mission is to empower everyone with data. And today, thousands of customers rely on our data to everything platform to empower their IT, DevOps teams, and security teams to bring data to every question, decision, and action. And talking about questions and answers, of course, next slide, please. The journey always starts with a question. And the question in this case, and think about the demo that we just have seen, right? It gives a really good overview on the challenges and complexity you will face when you deal with protection of your business against the bad guys. I think also about what you just saw, right? The knowledge that you need to have the right insights to protect you against those threats. And yes, once in a while, the demo gods are not with us, but I believe, and I like the demo because it shows a threat that is real, right? It's a potential threat for your business. And these security threats get more sophisticated and the attack surfaces expand every year. But now security teams face a more difficult surface that is now created by remote work and some new COVID-related attacks that capitalize on these current crises. So security teams that use Splunk are able to find and remediate security threats up to 2 times faster. We're talking about a tool here, right? So, but also the knowledge counts. So think about what Post Luxembourg could bring to you based on the knowledge they have. And with that knowledge and the tool that we provide, the solution that we provide to market, our customers are able to use Splunk advanced analytics to find the needle in the haystack and handle the priorities of those threats and respond with confidence on those things that need a certain priority and a response in a timely manner. And also, and Torsten touched a little bit on this, and with Splunk security orchestration, automation, and response capabilities, security teams can now automate security operation workflows to stop threats at machine speed. And next slide, please. But if I say machine speed, right, it's not just machine speed, it's way more. If we talk about analytics, we often say real-time analytics, but there's way more, right? So it's right-in-time analytics, if you ask me, which means so you need to deal with historical data, near real-time data, and predictive analytics as well. And you need to do that along the ways of what any type data comes in, the size, time, location, or device. And device could be something that's connected to the next generation of mobility, so the 5th generation, which could be something that uses a multi-access environment, for example, IoT device. Yeah, and the size, think about the size. If you think about all those devices create a lot of data, right? And that data is real time. And to give you a little bit of a view, when you think about the increasing volume of data, and you will probably wonder what kind of data are we talking about? So think about the following. Each person per day creates a lot of data. It's actually 1.7 megabyte of data every second by every person that was doing something on digital data in 2020. Imagine the amount. We're talking here about, what is it, roughly 2.5 quadrillion bytes of data that are produced by the humans on this planet using digital information. Next slide, please. So what about all those threats then? As those threats evolve against the enterprise, compliance mandates become more stringent, cloud environments become more complex, your own environment becomes more complex and diverse. So you need to create something else, a more secure and more powerful security posture. And to do this, Splunk, the Splunk solution help those SOC teams to operationalize the data across those multi-cloud environments, but also the bridge between cloud and on-premise. And why? Because it will give you an enhanced visibility on the end-to-end data that is flowing. It will give you a capability to quickly monitor, investigate, analyze, and detect threats across those environments. And that will strengthen your capability and your ability to protect yourself against those bad guys. Next slide, please. So how do we gonna deal with this, right? So if I talk to CISOs across the world, and they often say, and especially these days, they say, so I'm actually living 10 years in 6 months. What they're actually saying is, I need to be so actionable. So I need high quality data, I need data now, and it should be easy to use. So with that in mind, the Splunk Enterprise Analytics Workspace, which is self-service, is really cool. You don't need to have deep insights on our query language to be actionable again. right? So you saw the dashboards in the demo. You could create those dashboards on the fly if you have the knowledge, of course. But this makes life easier for those who want to do self-service dashboarding. Because my belief is also, there is so much data out there, and users are creating the data. So they could actually say, dear organization, I just created some data that could be useful in your approach to protect our organization, right? So we talked about, there was a little bit of a chat about the kill chain. The kill chain is a way of dealing with protecting you against the bad guys. But before that kill chain, you have a pre-attack. And that pre-attack is often where people work at home, they get stuff in, they see alerts, and wouldn't it be cool to say, hey, dear organization, here is something, please look at it. Please look at the value of the data that I see, the value that I created, the alerts that I've seen. And this is also something that we give to you in the current product, but also for the upcoming products. Next slide, please. So our future, if you look at the future of data creation, you saw the amounts, right? So it's huge. It's if you're still not convinced on what it is. Yeah, I can give you some numbers on the emails, for example, right, that people are creating. But also think about what happened the last 2 years. So 90% of all the data that was created was actually created by in the last 2 years. And to get that data actionable, you need to have a mechanism to pull that data in, to make sure that that data is high quality, high value, right? Because data literacy is a thingy. And what data literacy actually is the way to translate data into information so that that information can be used in a use case. And to do that, you need to have a good collect, process, and delivery mechanism. So currently, we have a solution on market, Splunk Data Stream Processor, which is a data streamer that deals with data from a source to a destination. The nice thing is, if it would be only source and destination, you will probably see only 2 boxes on that beautiful screenshot that we have up here. But it's a little bit more. Those boxes between the source and the destination are actually actions that you could use to enrich that data, to raise quality, but also, and this is a little bit about our future, you could also apply machine learning into that stream. This is our current thinking. What we do there is actually get machine learning, for example, clustering of alerts into that stream so that the output is high value and usable. You can also protect high sensitive data. You could mask data in the stream. So if you send data from A to B that has PII information, you could mask that data. And by the way, if you stream that data, the outcome is not always Splunk, right? You can say, okay, high quality data that I really need for security investigations go to my security solutions. And the other one could go to something else, which is still then usable by the search engine that we have and that we are as Splunk core. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about machine learning, and yeah, this is also maybe good to understand. If we talk about machine learning, we also talk a little bit about data quality, and we talk about data scientists. So data science is not something that you are, it's something that you apply into data, right? And that's applying machine learning to data or deep learning to data should be something that is easy to do, right? So think about what the data scientists do these days. They spend a lot of time on dealing with the quality of data. So that part is now away because we have that dealing with quality of data into that ingest and data streaming processor, right? So the analyst or the data scientist can then use machine learning way more efficient by using, for example, dashboards like this. It gives you already a view on the data. It showcases some of the solutions that we have, for example, like the Smart Outlier Detection Assistant, to detect anomaly detections. But then you still need to figure out what is an abnormally, right? And this is where you probably need the knowledge of a partner like Post Luxembourg. Next slide, please. So thinking about what you just seen, right? So there's a lot ahead. Our main focus for the upcoming months is and upcoming years is to really focus on getting data in, making that data actionable, machine learning, doing things smarter by building more content, putting that data into context by, for example, using our enterprise security product or a UBA product or our automation orchestration product. But be confident, right? So you are not the first that will use this solution. Because as said, so we are on a mission. We are on a mission to empower everybody with data. And 91% of all the top 100 companies worldwide already use that empowerment and use that solution to get data actionable. And yes, we are recognized by Gartner as the leader in the Magic Quadrant for SIEM. But that's not the only recognition that we have. So we do a little bit more with that data. The outcome of data could be insights on security incidents and acting on those. But it could also be insights on your machinery, on your IT operations, on the IoT devices out there, doing predictive stuff. So investing into Splunk and into the partnership, and next slide, please, into the partnership of Splunk and Post is something for now, but also for the future. And I think with this beautiful partnership, we have a future-ready solution for you. So if you're not buying into this, I think today's session is the beginning of everything, a journey towards more control. So reach out to Splunk or to Post Luxembourg to see what we can do to help you as partners to modernize your SOC operations. And with that said, I'd like to hand it back to Torsten. Torsten, I give you the mic back. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Franz, for these interesting insights and outlook. And as you just said, it's very important for a successful SOC to have a good partner at the site. So I think we are running a little bit out of time, so we can take 1, 2, 3 questions. We will see. So let Thomas and Nathanael getting back to the desk and for the final discussion.
So yeah. I don't know if there is any question.
There is one question. Is the dashboard of SOC can be shared with its customers?
The dashboard of SOC have, in my opinion, to be shared with customer because you can give access to your customer to a visualization of what is happening on their environment. So you have to provide this kind of access, in my opinion. As a good SOC, you have to do this kind of visualization in order to help the customer to keep track of what is happening on his infrastructure.
Thank you. I have a second question. How do you address the definition and creation of correlation rules to ensure that all risks are covered?
So to create the correlation rules, we base the rules we create on our knowledge, on the threats that we know that exist based on the threat intelligence we do. And we also do tight collaboration with our clients. We do some regular meetings with them. We try to understand their needs, their business, and we try to be as tight as possible with them to fine-tune and tailor the use cases as for the need of their business.
Can I answer also part of that question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course.
So we at Splunk have a security research team that helps PostLux, for example, to use content, and that content is then based on analytic stories, and those analytic stories are related to attack frameworks. And we talked about one, the kill chain, but there's also MITRE ATT&CK, there is the sys controls, there's a lot, right? So, and this is the content that we provide to partners like Luxembourg to be actionable against those threats. But actionable against those threats means not only the current threats, but also the historical threats. So you can apply that content in context and then provide the right insights. That's how we deal with this.
So the last question is for Splunk. Franz, when you see a SIEM set up at other organizations, what do you think, which aspect is more relevant in the future?
The aspect of knowledge. What I mean with this is you still need to answer, if you're an organization, you still need to answer two questions. And the question one is, what is it that you need to be? And what I mean with this is, what do you need to be in the view of compliancy, regulations, and control? The second question you need to answer is, what can you be? So against those policies, can you be actionable, or do you need a partner? And what I see organizations now do is they work in collaboration mode, meaning they deal with a part of those controls, and they ask a partner like Luxembourg to be a part of that SOC effort as well. So a SOC is not a technical solution, it's a program that uses a SIEM tool, and within that SIEM tool you can drive collaboration to get in control. So I would say the future is dealing with the amount of data, the amount of alerts, and the knowledge you need to be actionable against those two streams. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
So maybe Torsten will.
Torsten, yeah. We'll maybe conclude this presentation.
Yes, I'm sorry. That's social distancing we have to respect. Even though we took, I think, 3 minutes too much, so it was a little bit longer than planned. Thank you very much for your participation. I would like to thank especially to the speakers, to Nathanael, Thomas, and Franz for their great presentations and demo, and also to everybody who was involved in setting up this webinar. And before closing today's session, I just would like to advertise our last webinar in the course of the Cybersecurity Week tomorrow, which is about cybersecurity and what about the human factor. So the webinar will take place tomorrow at the same time at 2 p.m. and it would be great to see you soon. And if you have any further question, please don't hesitate to send the questions to the email that we provided. And with this, I would like to close today's webinar. Thank you and goodbye.